Hello everybody and welcome back to Let's Play Chaos Head. Let me go ahead and get my timer up and ready to go. There we go. Near off hour, or I guess, yeah, I don't know. This first part makes zero sense. Near off hours entrance to 8H General Hospital. There was an area where ambulances could pull up alongside the building and deliver emergency patients. Now, two ambulances were parked there, and the ambulance crew members attempted to carry people who had been wounded in the earthquake into the hospital. A doctor in pale green surgery scrubs and the middle-aged head nurse yelled while instructing them on how to come in. A number of patients awaiting treatment had already sat down in the area around the off-hours entrance, demonstrating that the doctors were having trouble getting to everyone. I don't understand... excuse me. I don't understand why you would have an off-hours entrance. That just seems weird. Wouldn't you just have an entrance and then maybe a emergency entrance for people that need to go into the ER? I feel like that would make much more sense than having any sort of off-hours entrance. The patients being born in could be divided into roughly two groups. Those with external wounds had blood flowing from their arms or foreheads, and their faces were screwed up in agony. It was painful to look at them, but their examinations had been postponed. The ones who had been prioritized for admittance were the unconscious patients, who had no external wounds whatsoever. The baffling symptom was awfully common among the emergency patients who had been brought in as a result of the earthquake. It was a phenomenon that hadn't been witnessed in previous large earthquakes, and the doctors had yet to determine the reason for their unconsciousness. Another ambulance arrived on the scene, blaring its shrill siren. When the doctor asked the patient's symptoms, the worker who had descended from the ambulance yelled, He gave no other explanation. Normally, this would have driven the doctor to complain. In a situation as jumbled as this, if someone said top priority to you without any explanation, it would be ordinary to answer, "Are you making fun of me?" Unexpectedly, however, both the doctor and the head nurse nodded at once. They helped bring the stretcher down from the ambulance. Kishimoto Ayase lay on the stretcher as though sleeping. Unconscious, she groaned faintly. Unconcerned by the hateful stares of the externally wounded patients seated all around, the doctor and the ambulance crew hastened to carry the stretcher inside the hospital. Why is Rimi here? A girl watched this unfold from a short distance away. She stood at the hospital's main entrance. Sakihata Rimi bit her lip and furrowed her eyebrows, a strained expression on her face.
Kishimoto-san.
The earthquake concerned me, but I was even more preoccupied with thoughts of Shogun. Though my migraine had mostly gone away, anxiety continued to dominate my head, and being alone made me grow more and more depressed. I had yet to receive any form of contact from Rimi. I tried calling her, but I got her voicemail again. Even so, up until now, Rimi had invariably come sailing to wherever I was and reassured me, saying, "It'll be okay." Why wouldn't she come for me today? Hadn't she told me she would always stay with me? I ground my teeth and immersed myself in redoing my PC settings to elude my insecurity. I'd start by fixing my email configuration from the ground up. Since I hadn't touched it since I first tweaked the settings, I didn't remember how I'd like to have everything arranged. I had to begin by finding the instructions for my email software in ISP. Before I knew it, I was damp with sweat, though it didn't involve a huge amount of labor. Many times midway through, I wanted to throw it all away in irritation. Even so, an hour later, 30 minutes of which was spent searching for the manual, I had finally restored email service to myself. I immediately checked my mail. Ah, I finally become able to hear her voice. It was a real relief to listen to her. I felt like it all been worthwhile. Let's see. We got become sex friends with me from Maria. Sex so great your head'll explode. Shin. You have been presented with an honorary deposit, SY Bank. Yesterday was fun, Shibana. Urgent. 20-person quota. From information. Whose eyes are those from Nanami? Okay, that one sounds intriguing. My husband cheated on me from Ruriko. Get hooked on Lolly Arrow Coeds from Ken's. And, of course, like, all of these are spam and scam emails. I had 8 new items in my inbox. Pretty much all of them were spam. Mixed in with the spam, there was a mail with a subject line and a sender. That caught my attention. I groaned without thinking. What was this? Was Nanami pulling my leg? If so, that'd make her lowest of the low. I'm gonna beat her to death. No. Wait a sec. Nanami couldn't have emailed me here. She never sent me mail to my PC address in the past. A little earlier, even she'd mailed my cell phone. I hadn't told her my PC email address in the first place. Had it just sort of happened? Or no, excuse me, the convergence of multiple coincidences? Had it just sort of happened? Nanami was a quite common name. Even the phrase, whose eyes are those, was incredibly popular now. You'd see it getting used all over the place. There was nothing weird about it getting used as a title of a spam email. For the time being, I decided to read the contents.
結構な長文だな。さっきはチャットで話ができて楽しかったよ。ちなみに送信者の名前はダミー。僕の名前は将軍だよ。
Oh, well, that sounds very intriguing. Shogun? You mean...
将軍が僕のメアド知ってるはずが。
But what if Shogun were recording my thoughts? Extracting my email address might be as easy as pie for him. That would require you to have ever been thinking about your email address, which I don't know why you would in most normal circumstances, unless someone actually asked you for it, and then you would think about it because you'd have to probably remember what it was. Especially if it's not something you just hand out willy-nilly to everybody you run into.
嘘でしょ?
Oh, well, at least now we can read it. So, I had fun chatting with you earlier. By the way, the sender's name is an alias. My name is Shogun. I'm so glad Ayase was rescued. I thought perhaps I'd use her as a victim in my next new-gen creation, but suicide is fine too. But how very like you, Takumi, to hit a new high score. You've left me in awe. You truly are special. What is this? Now next up is Nishijo and Nanami. It'd be nice to see a dramatic development involving siblings, but thanks to the earthquake, Shibuya is currently in a rather brutal state. It's up to you whether or not you'll be able to reach a conclusion so touching as to send all that flying away. Hasn't it started becoming a bit troublesome to set off on quests unarmed? You're a hero, so don't you want to go get your hands on a hero's sword? Please look forward to it. As I read the whole message, its intimate tone became conversely terrifying. He's crazy. Oh god. Now let's start with Nanami's rescue quest. I'd like you to come to the roof of O Front at 9 tonight. Okay. I'm planning to get you on TV, so please be sure to look properly heroic. P.S. On a side note, have you accepted my present? When he said things like quests and high score, he almost made it sound like a game.
僕は勇者なんかじゃない。ナイトハルトじゃない。
I'd get murdered right off the bat. I want to run away. Rimi. I had to get Rimi to protect me. Why wouldn't she contact me? Had she gotten injured in the earthquake? But Masumi hadn't said a thing about it when I saw him. I took my phone in hand and looked to see if any calls or messages had arrived for Rimi.
来てない。
Where the heck was she? I had to start. My phone email inbox. At the very top was display the mail from Nanami that had reached me shortly before. Nanami. Was she okay? I reread the message from Shogun one more time from the start. Now, next up is Nishijo Nanami. Let's start the Nanami rescue quest. What did it mean? For now, better try calling Nanami. I opened my phone's address book. There were only 3 recorded numbers. Home, Rimi's cell, and Nanami's cell. Every single time we came across each other, Nanami nagged at me to call her. There was no helping it, so this time I'd call her for once. So be good about it and pick up. If you don't, I'll never call you again, okay? I won't let you make excuses like something happened to you, or something about you getting hurt and trapped in place during the earthquake. I pulled up Nanami's number and pressed the call button. I put the phone to my ear. No response. The calling sound wouldn't start ringing. I knew it tended to take a little time like this when you were making calls with a cell phone, but right now, that soundless time seemed to last forever, making me horribly irritated.
早くしてよ。よし、繋がった。
Okay, we're getting a ringtone. Or, well, a ring. Eh? Huh? This sound. What was it? I experimented with taking my cell phone away from my ear. An unfamiliar melody resonated through the room. Could it be a phone's ringtone? Whose phone was ringing? I'm trying to think if we did red or green last time. I think it might have been red. I'm not 100% certain on that though. But like I said, I think it might have been, so we're gonna do green. Actually, no, now that I think about it, it might have been green. Oh well, too late now. In terms of the timing, no matter how I thought about it, I shook my head. I'd never heard Nanami's ringtone, so there was no evidence that this melody belonged to Nanami's phone. Frightened, I put my phone back to my ear one more time, but here's the thing, MC, I would expect that you would know that you do not hear other people's ringtones when you call them. You hear a generic ring to let you know that the call has connected and that the person you're calling is, in theory, receiving the call. I say in theory because I've had times where people have called me and they've gotten the ring and then I don't actually have it show on my phone that anybody was calling. I don't even get a missed call or anything like that. I've had that happen sometimes. It's not particularly common, but as a general rule of thumb, when you hear the ring, it means the call has connected successfully. So this sound is a little bit weird because it would imply that the person you've called has picked up and you're hearing some other sound on their end. Assuming this is not the generic ring that we're supposed to believe all phones have when you've called somebody and you're waiting for them to pick up or to be sent to voicemail. Frightened, I put my phone back to my ear one more time. Nanami still didn't pick up. Please, hurry up and answer. Okay, yeah, no, we do hear the generic ring. We're just getting some extra sound that's coming through for whatever reason, which is very weird. Ah, it connected.
Nanami? Nanami? Nanami でしょ? 返事しろよ。今どこにいるんだ? 大丈夫なの? 何か言って。Nanami? Nanami?
実は。
Hmm? Huh? Something about this was strange. Like, I was hearing Nanami's voice, not merely from the phone, but also from close to me.
お前、一体どこにいるんだ？
ね、
上？
I looked up without giving much thought to it. I saw a human figure move atop the bed, wriggling in that narrow space, sending my mountains of piled up arrogate boxes tumbling. Surely not.
そこにいるの？
あはは、見つかっちゃった。てへ。
Okay, and that would explain why we were hearing what sounded like a ringtone. On top of the normal ringing of making the call. Just as I thought, the one who poked her head out with an apologetic expression on her face was Nanami. Could it be that she'd been hiding? Since when?
何がてへだよ。それより車椅子の怪しいやつに会わなかったか？
I scrutinized Nanami all over as she descended from the bed, attempting to determine whether there were any abnormalities with her.
鬼、ちょっと落ち着いてってば。
聞いてるんだ。答えろよ、お前。本当に大丈夫なのか？
I'm asking. Oh, never mind. That was him reading it. Never mind.
それって、将軍のことだよね。
まさか、あったのか？どこで何をされた？
I grabbed Nanami's shoulders and desperately pressed her for a response. Damn it. Nanami was an impotent little sister, but it'd be my fault if Shogun had turned her into spoiled goods. The Shogun had gotten his hands on Nanami as a way of provoking me, Nanami having caught up in my mess.
ごめん。
I wept at how pathetic I was. I'd caused trouble not merely for myself, but also for those around me. A harmless otaku, my ass. I was scum. I was garbage as a human being, not to mention as a brother.
鬼、泣いてるの？もしかして、ナナのことを心配してくれてる？
ごめん。僕のせいで。
泣かないでよ。困ったな。実は、あの将軍のメール、ナナのいたずらなんだ。
Well, you see, that doesn't sound fishy at all. You know, beyond the fact that theoretically Nanami doesn't know who the hell Shogun is. We would think, at least. You know, we have zero reason to believe that she would know who Shogun was, unless Shogun managed to somehow contact her.
は？
I didn't understand what Nanami was saying. I became dazed.
つまり、将軍ってナナだったの、最初からずっと。お兄があんまりにもナナの相手してくれないから、ちょっとからかうつもりで、つい。だからね、ナナは誰にも何にもされてないし、全くピンピンしてるよ。お兄が泣くことなんてないの、わかった？
お前。
I was relieved. Even his knowledge of her deception made me think of how ridiculous "don't fuck around with me" being reassured made even bigger tears come spilling out of me.
ふざけんなよ。
ごめん、本当にごめんね、鬼。差し入れ持ってきたから、それで許して。
Holding up a hand in supplication as she apologized to me, Nanami cheerfully brought a paperboard cutout from where it had been hiding in a corner of the room. Inside were 4 little cakes, 2 Mont Blancs, and 2 cheesecakes.
どう？美味しそうでしょ？まあ、当然だよね。ナナの手作りだもん。お兄のために作ったんだからね。ほら、一緒に食べよう。
Nanami set the box on top of my computer desk and put 2 cakes each on 2 paper plates, which she had prepared somehow or other.
ねえお兄、ナナのこと心配してくれてありがとう。すごく嬉しかった。お兄にもいいところあるじゃん。泣いちゃったのはちょっと情けなかったけどね。
Shut up, you little liar. My pride had gone to tatters from how I'd been totally fooled and had shed tears to boot. What an idiot I was.
でもお兄がナナのお兄でよかった。
She smiled at me merrily. A scene that was just a wee bit more peaceful than usual. How nice it would have been if this were the scene that came next. Right. It amounted to no more than a convenient delusion of mine. Even now, Anonymity still hadn't answered the phone, and somebody's ringtone kept reverberating through the room. An airheaded melody that stood in stark contrast to my psychological state. My mood verged on despair. This had to signify that Anonymity's cell phone was in my room. I couldn't think of any other alternatives. I could no longer avert my eyes from reality. P.S. Have you accepted my present? It was a lie. It was a categorical lie. No matter what, it was simply too ridiculous. I lowered the hand holding my phone at a snail's pace. I couldn't do as much as blink. My throat was achily dry. Even so, I sought out the sound's origin. This time I slowly moved my eyes across each of the items strewn around in this room. I savagely detested myself for having never attempted to tidy up my room. If I kept it organized, I'd soon have known where I was hearing it from. Where the hell was the sound coming from? This box. I heard the melody from inside it. It was about the size of two Arrogate boxes lined up next to one another. I thought it was a box from an online purchase, but there was no flyer or anything to go with it, nor was there an invoice mentioning the sender. But it was firmly sealed with packing tape. Had there always been a box this large sitting over here? Had it fallen off my bed in the earthquake?
Yeah.
I'd never seen this box before, to begin with. If it were something I'd ordered, I'd have opened it as soon as it arrived. If it were an auction item, I'd have sent it off as soon as I taped it closed. It occurred to me that perhaps Anonymity had brought something for me in it, but I had no recollection of her carrying a present over in a cardboard box like this. In short, during the span of the hour when I'd gone to school, somebody had come here. Shogun, I'll send you a present. I'll be delighted if it pleases you. The pulse in my chest grew violent. I hastily double-checked the padlock on the door. A chill ran down my back. Earlier, when I'd staggered out of my base, I couldn't remember having locked the door behind me. Which was natural enough, because at the time I'd been tormented by a stabbing migraine and my consciousness was hazy. When I returned from school an hour later, the door had been unlocked. Anyone would have been free to enter. Had Shogun come here? I looked at the box again. The melody continued ringing. Nanami's cell phone was inside it. Wow, time must have either really slowed down or something, because by now you would have more than likely gone to voicemail. I'm just gonna say that right now. By now you would have probably been tossed into voicemail. So unless we tried calling again and we're not informed of that, the only explanation is that time has really freaking slowed down. I gingerly picked up that cardboard box. Heavy. Far too heavy for me to think a cell phone was the one thing inside it. Going by what it felt like, it was about the size of a 500 milliliter juice container. I hesitated to open it. I had an incredibly bad feeling.
こんなの開きたくないよ。
But I couldn't come up with any way to deal with it other than opening it. Besides, I was worried about Nanami. She was an impotent little sister. But she was my little sister all the same. Nanami's cell phone was inside here. Or, to put it differently, someone had taken Nanami's cell phone from her. Let's start the Nanami rescue quest. So, Shogun had written in his email. I looked at the clock. It was 7:30, another hour and a half left until the designated time. Nanami might be in danger. I had no choice but to open it. My pulse put in slow. Sweat poured heavily from my forehead. I wiped that sweat with the back of my hand and, groaning, began peeling off the packing tape stuck to the box.
Yada, 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 yada.
Muttering to myself as though praying, I opened the top flaps. Inside it was a lump wrapped in aluminum foil. Styrofoam peanuts were neatly stuffed in there alongside it. I peeked in timidly, but I couldn't spot a phone. I heard the melody from inside the lump of aluminum foil. Sweat entered my eyes, making them sting. My whole body had gotten soaked in sweat without my knowing it. Ugh, I had enough. Why was I the only one who had to end up like this? I was on the verge of voicing my gripes. I sought words of deliverance from Sarah, but she wouldn't say anything to me. A whole range of delusions were swirling around in my head, on the brink of exploding, to the point that I couldn't have imaginary conversations with Sarah. The heightening of my emotions made my nerve endings seem about to burn apart, but the cell phone's carefree melody miraculously urged me on. There's a hand or something in there, isn't it? Bracing myself, I pinched the edges of the aluminum foil in my fingers. Closed my eyes, held my breath, and ripped all the aluminum foil off at once. I heard the melody even more clearly now. I was afraid to open my eyes. I strove to collect my breathing, but it didn't go well at all. It would be okay. It was fine. There wasn't anything bad there. It was probably a prank by Nanami, anyway. No doubt Nanami would come in the room sooner or later saying, yay, I got you, with a smile. Yeah, that had to be it. I couldn't consider anything else. If so, I'd scold her with all my might, and I'd never listen to a thing she'd said again. Right. Tell me that's how it is, Nanami. I couldn't stand to close my eyes and keep on gazing at darkness any longer, but unable to see, it had the opposite effect of making me envision only awful delusions. Which is why I softly opened my eyelids. I saw it. Yep, thought as much. What lay there was a hand. A slender, cleanly severed hand. It had the same cell phone model as mine. On its wrist it wore...
へえ、かわいいバングルじゃん。じゃあさ、これナナにちょうだい。ひひ、お兄、どう？似合う？
A bangle whose yellow leather band had gone scarlet. Okay, well, we are about 10 seconds away from my timer going off, give or take. So we're going to go ahead and end this part here. So, I will see you all next time. A quick reminder before I do go ahead and leave, though. I do have a Patreon, Discord, and a Streamlabs donation link down below in the description. If you want to stay updated on what's going on with the channel, I do highly recommend that you join that Discord, or use that Discord link to join the Discord server. That is my go-to place for posting about the channel. Sometimes I remember to post elsewhere. Generally, I don't, though. So, like I said, if you want to know what's going on with the channel, I highly recommend you join that. As for the Patreon and Streamlabs donation link, those are the two major ways to help support the channel. Patreon gets you some goodies such as early access to videos and the like. While Streamlabs, the channel takes home a larger cut. Patreon takes like 5% for themselves. And then there's like a 25-cent or something like that fee to transfer it actually into my account so I can use it to buy things. Streamlabs does not take a cut themselves, and the money, I believe, just gets dropped into PayPal. I believe. Well, actually, I guess if you use whatever it's called, the other, they've got a couple of options that I've got enabled. PayPal, straight up credit processing, I guess via Stripe, I think it is, but don't quote me on that. And God, what is the other thing called? Let me find it. Skrill. And I don't think those actually take a cut when you are transferring from your wallets into your account. So basically, if you use the Streamlabs option, the channel takes home 100% or pretty damn close to that at the very least of whatever you give. While compared to Patreon, like I said, they take 5%, and then there's on top of that the 25-cent transfer fee to put it to my account so I can actually spend the money to be able to buy games, computer hardware, whatever the case may be. So use whichever method works best for you. If you care about the goodies such as early access to videos, feel free to use Patreon. There's no difference really between the tiers, so you do have the option if you want of doing $1 Patreon pledge, and then say you wanted to do $5 a month, you could then go ahead and do $4 via Streamlabs monthly donation option that they added, mostly as a means of competing against Twitch subscriptions. But either way, you can go with that route if you felt so inclined, and the channel will still take home a decent chunk of whatever you give in total, and you still manage to get the goodies. It's up to you all what you want to go ahead and do, but like I said, that'll be it for this video. I will see you all next time. Till then, goodbye and farewell.